Hey guys, my name is Ben Jenkins. I am one of our cybersecurity guys here at ThreatLocker. And number one, I want to thank you for joining us today on this lovely webinar. I also want to just make something very, very clear. I do not normally sound like this. I seem to have caught a cold. I've been doing a lot of traveling recently, and I was actually on holiday this last weekend, and it seems that I have come back with what can only be described as a monotone voice. So I do apologize. I have done checks. It's not COVID. Not that you guys would have to worry, obviously, through a computer screen. But so yeah, I do apologize. I have a pint of water sat here with me to save me. But so do bear with me, guys. Now, obviously, if this is your first time joining us and you're not familiar with ThreatLocker, number one, welcome. Hey, we are a global cybersecurity leader. We essentially provide enterprise-level cybersecurity tools, tools to be able to realistically improve your cybersecurity suite. So we do this for a few different options. We have our application Allowlisting, Ringfencing, elevation control, storage control, as well as our network access control solutions. And by utilizing these, we can help to try to provide a more secure approach to blocking known, unknown exploits, random applications that users want to run, essentially trying to keep you and your businesses safe. Oh, and of course, data. Now, obviously, it is Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is an interesting month in itself because it kind of leads to believe that we shouldn't be focusing on cybersecurity every other month. We really should, but nonetheless, Cybersecurity Awareness Month, which is great. And we are obviously also in Spooky Month. So it is going to be Halloween very, very soon, which is great. So welcome to the spooky season. But realistically, we're here to discuss how we can try to protect against some of the latest threats in today's webinar with the incredibly catchy name of Zero Scares with Zero Trust. Now, obviously, during today's webinar, we're going to go ahead and take a bit of a deep dive into some recent cybersecurity attacks, what's been plaguing the industry, discuss some of the importance on why it is we need to implement a proactive cybersecurity defense rather than a reactive defense as such. And we have two wonderful experts here with us today. And we're going to be able to hear what it is that they have been seeing. Obviously, be sure to stick around to the end as we are going to be giving away a complimentary ticket for our annual show, which is Zero Trust World, which will be held in Orlando, February 1st till the 3rd, I believe, 2023. I believe it's down in the Omni in Orlando. So come down in February, get some nice sunshine. It's going to be great. Now, obviously, without further ado, let's go ahead and introduce our experts. Experts, if you would like to come on the screen, please do turn on your videos, show us your wonderful shining faces. Okay, we have got Bill. Pete, are you there?
I'm here.
You are here?
I'm waiting for the co-host to start my video.
There you go. We've now
Hey, look at that.
That's good. We have got the two of them here. Wonderful. So
I think you took Zero Trust a little too far on that.
Yes, that's there we go. So from Merit 2.0, we have Pete Peterson. Pete, do you want to introduce yourself?
Thanks, Ben. I'm Pete Peterson. I'm CEO of Merit 2.0. We're a managed service provider with offices in Virginia and in Providence, Rhode Island. We've got 32 coworkers. We've got 4,000 endpoints we're responsible for across 150 different clients. And I've been in the industry, in the IT industry since 2002 and technology since 1988.
Wow, nice, nice.
I know, I'm older than you, Ben.
I did not make any comments in the slightest. Yeah, well, moving swiftly onwards, we have Bill. So Bill from Balance Logic. Bill, you're the CEO of Balance Logic, is that correct?
That's correct.
Awesome. And you guys provide business support services. Where is it you're based?
We are based in Maryland with another office in Phoenix, Arizona.
Nice. I went for my first time to Phoenix about 6 months ago, and I fell in love with the place. Mainly because I'd never been that far west in the US, and when I was landing, was amazed that I was basically surrounded by mountains everywhere. Absolutely awesome place, if a bit warm for my liking. But yeah, so in 2020, you guys started a new managed services company, is that right?
Yeah, so Balance Logic is the main company. We've been in business 18 years. We are a full service MSP. We also offer other business support services. But in 2020, we, with our growing business model, we created a new MSP called IT Assurance, which is basically now the MSP arm of Balance Logic.
Perfect. Okay, that's great. What we will do, thank you very much for those intros, you guys. We're going to kick off first and foremost with our first poll. So I am going to go ahead. Oh, no, it's already been kicked off for me. Check that out. Guys, there is a poll. Please go ahead and answer that poll. So we've got some good answers. Just for those who are unaware, the question is, what is the biggest threat to endpoints? Is it user error? Is it unpatched vulnerabilities? Or is it a lack of firewalls? Three, yeah, interesting, different choices. We have got one Q&A from Paul of where can I get the ThreatLocker merch? I would like to say I am rocking our newest t-shirt design. I need like a catwalk or something behind me to walk that down on. These are our lovely new black ones, so you will find the staff wearing these now if you're ever at an event. I know we do give away t-shirts and socks a lot, so do reach out to us. If anyone is interested in ThreatLocker merch, I guess reach out to your account manager. If we don't give them away like that, now we're kind of gonna have to, because I've just said it. So there we go. What's the worst that could happen? So yeah, awesome. Right. We have got the poll and we will stop sharing now. What is it that we have got? Results wise, we are at 66% of people. Oh, there we go. 66% of people believe that it is user error, 25% on unpatched vulnerabilities, and 9% on a lack of firewall. Honestly, I don't disagree with that in the slightest. Often when I am talking about cybersecurity threats that are out there, I often do like to joke that it is our biggest problem is Doris picking up the USB from the car park and plugging it into machines. The safest way to stay protected is frankly removing users from machines, but let's be realistic, we can't do that. So that is why we rely on these other cybersecurity solutions. Now, jumping forwards from there, guys, what are the most common threats that we're seeing affecting businesses out there? Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Pete.
So Ben, let me move backwards for a second. When you said Doris with the thumb drive,
Yes.
It was Doris in the thumb drive, and in the hall closet. We did a cyber event with the FBI in Virginia last month, and the FBI was supposed to bring a laptop we were going to connect to the projector, and they didn't. And so they had a flash drive that they asked me to put in my PC for projection. Now, if you're going to trust anybody, there's probably the jokes write themselves about trusting the FBI to give you a thumb drive. Right. I assume they've been watching and listening to everything I've said ever since, but I did put it in so we could project for the FBI agent during the presentation. And immediately the ThreatLocker pop-up showed up on the screen. So we had to call our network operations center to allow permission for the FBI presentation on my laptop. And I know we're going to talk about reactive versus proactive, but to me, there's an all-encompassing benefit to ThreatLocker when you're stopping people from doing things that might be a bad impact from a good intention. And so ThreatLocker was spot on in that case.
Nice. Okay, awesome.
There was an analyst with the FBI that was there, and he said, so let me get this straight. MSPs can use this technology and make it available for every small business in America. And we said, yeah, but only if ThreatLocker is doing their job. But yeah, conceivably they could. Yeah. And the FBI was duly impressed.
There's actually a pretty cool piece of content I saw produced by Five Eyes. So for those of you who are unaware, Five Eyes is a organization set up by the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. Basically, they're heads of cybersecurity. And they did a report maybe about 3 months ago, something along those lines, maybe 5 or 6 now, actually, essentially showing that MSPs are being hit more and more during these cyber attacks, and explicitly called out for MSPs in this report different ways in which they can protect against themselves. One of them was zero trust, which is ironic, and more than likely probably why I talk about it. But it's a very, very interesting piece to talk about there. Yeah, linking back to the FBI and all that kind of stuff. Now, Bill, what common threats are we seeing out there, kind of affecting businesses?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple I'll talk about. I want to go back to the USB drive real quick, though. It's interesting how the world changes. If you ever gone to a technology conference, an IT conference, every single booth, every single vendor, that was one of the giveaways they had was a thumb drive. You go now, there's none, and if there is somebody, then you have to play a trick on it. Yeah. So we don't want any USB drives as giveaways. So
it's ironic enough. I do a lot of our presenting. So either myself or Danny will do a lot of the presenting on behalf of ThreatLocker. And every single trade show I rock up at, they always say, "Hey, have you got your slides on a USB?" No, like of course no. Like I'm not doing that. That's dangerous and scary.
Let's go 2000.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so some of the threats that we're seeing out there is there's 3 kind of main threats. The first one, and I think we all would agree, is phishing, right? That's one of the biggest threats that's out there. But that can be broken down into a couple different categories. One is your standard phishing. Then you have your spear phishing, which is very directional, very targeted. And then there have something called whaling that a lot of people probably are not familiar with, but if you're in the IT world and cybersecurity world, you might be. And whaling is another form of phishing where you're directly targeting CEOs or executives. And we're seeing that coming up more and more. And I think another thing that we see a lot that we really take for granted, because it's been around forever, and that's tailgating. And I'm not talking about the tailgating at a football game or a soccer game or something like that, but walking and human by nature, we're very courteous, we're very nice, believe it or not. So if you're walking into a building, or in this case a secure building, you tend to just hold the door open for the person that's coming behind you. It's just common courtesy. But the problem is, this is one of the most successful exploits because of our courtesy. You're just letting that bad actor walk straight through and not giving any thought to it. So that's a big one. And then the third one I would talk about is vishing, which is probably another term a lot of people are not familiar with, which is actually gaining a lot of popularity. And that's basically phishing through your phone system. And that's where bad actors will leave urgent messages on your voicemail, wanting you to take immediate action, such as the IRS has a lien and you have to call within 24 hours or they're going to take your world. Warrants for your arrest, if you don't respond right away, things of that nature that, that they're going to leave that makes you really want to take action immediately. I get them at least twice a week, and at this point it's hilarious. But they are very serious. You get something like that, human nature is you want to take advantage of that, call that, get that problem taken care of, and then you fall right into the trap. So they're the categories we see the most of.
Okay, so we're seeing a fair amount of attacks there. I mean, from a business standpoint, Pete, like what impacts? We've lost Pete. He's back. There we go. I thought we'd lost.
I dropped my glasses. No,
he disappeared.
You're not sure if we trust him.
What impacts are we seeing that these attacks are having on businesses? I mean, the number one thing that always comes to mind for me is that it's down to reputation, and that's the one thing I always talk about is, it's the reputation of the business that's just been hit with ransomware, with leaked credentials, etc. What is it that you kind of believe or see these impacts are that they have on businesses?
I think a successful attack leaves an indelible scar on the business owner that goes way beyond dollars and cents, man. there's a lot of us that are business owners and we're part of a Rotary Club or a Lions Club. We're in the community, in our church organizations or youth sports. And we're known as, oh, she owns that business or he owns this business. And you go from being a pillar of the community to feeling like you've got a scarlet letter you're going to wear on your chest the rest of your life. It's not necessarily the dollars and cents. That's important, right? We're in this to make money. It is the psychological scars that you have allowed your employees and clients' confidential information to be received by really, really bad people all over the globe, and it will never come back. So it's Shakespearean, Ben. It's the Merchant of Venice. It's not just it's a pound of flesh as well as blood that people are out for, and that a business owner is going to carry that scar with them the rest of their life if there was something they could have done and they chose not to.
Totally agree there. Totally agree there. I mean, Bill, is there anything you wanted to add on there?
Yeah, I mean, and it's very Shakespearean. That's a beautiful adjective. But I think it goes even deeper than that, which is, even more sad, right? If it affects a lot of the businesses and they have to go out of business and close doors, you're not only affecting the business owner, leaving scars on the business owner, but all the employees and all the employees' families. It's a domino effect that it just keeps getting deeper and deeper. It's detrimental, and that's why cybersecurity is so critically important. And it's a big challenge because, the biggest thing is a lot of people say it can't happen to me, but it can.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, guys, actually, just for all of our attendees here as well, if you have any questions that you would love us to ask, please feel free to throw them into the Q&A. We are keeping an eye on there as well. We have some questions here, but we'd love to have some more as well. So if you do have any others, please do feel free to send those over. We're heading into holiday season soon. Depends on how much you count October Halloween as a holiday. I think you Americans are very much into Halloween, is that right? We kind of do it here. Again, very American thing. We're kind of getting there slowly but surely. But I mean, even as we then move further into the holiday seasons, we're going to get to Christmas, etc. Realistically, do you think that organizations should be taking kind of extra precautions, extra steps during this time? Because often during this time is when we tend to find that businesses are starting to head down towards that skeleton crew as such. So Pete, over to you.
Well, I don't think there's any secret that the attack on Kaseya that last year came on the Friday before the 4th of July weekend.
Yeah.
And so, there's no more vivid reminder that, holidays in our part of the world may be perfect attack season for people in other parts of the world, whatever the threat actors are. So yeah, you've got to be extra vigilant. Now, one of the questions I'd have is, if a business owner says, yeah, I think I need to be extra vigilant, have they subscribed to your enhanced security platform, or are they just waiting? And if they're waiting, what are they waiting for? And so I think you can use it two different ways. One is if there is a prospect or a suspect above your funnel, always leading with cybersecurity is important. If it's a current customer or a long-term customer that hasn't fully enrolled in your security, it's the perfect time to make sure that they know that, let's get this signed up now, and we'll work out the finances, maybe start billing you January 1, but let us protect you in November, December.
Awesome. Bill, anything from your standpoint there?
No, I think that's spot on. Exactly.
Awesome.
What you're saying.
Awesome. So actually, I wanted to ask you then, obviously your experience in the MSP space, awesome. And we've been seeing an uptick in cyber attacks. What is it you think are some of the most effective defenses against possible exploits, etc.?
Yeah, I mean, and it is, and it's every day. And like you were saying earlier, it's a lot of MSPs are being targeted, which is not a good thing, right? Yeah, it's not a good thing at all. But I think that this is a strategic approach. And I think there's three separate categories that in a combination will really provide a great defense. And those are, number one is making sure that you have a cybersecurity awareness program in there. Cybersecurity awareness training, it's critical to have in there. You want to build the culture, a positive cybersecurity culture in your company. I think the second one is going to be, take actions to reduce your attack surface, whether that's, making sure you have patch management or modding, remediation, make sure your firewalls are up to date, all the firmwares are up to date, and things of that nature. And then I think the most important thing is defense in depth. It's critical to have multiple layer security within your organization. We all know this, if one thing happens in one area, you have to have multiple layers, multiple backups, so it doesn't go all the way through. One thing we always use, in the Marine Corps, I was in the Marine Corps, and one of the terms we always used is that, you can't protect everything, you can't protect everybody, because even though you wear a bulletproof vest, you can still get shot in the head. So you have to really, protect multiple areas to really have that mindset.
That's fair. I quite like that. I think a lot of it as well is understanding where the threats are coming from, where the threats are, what is the attack surface. The one thing I always hear from MSPs is we want to increase our cybersecurity. We need to get more cybersecurity. We need to, at the end of the day, yes, don't get me wrong, it is great to build that layered approach to be able to, everything you mentioned there. But if we do not know where the threats are coming from, if we do not know what threats we're technically trying to protect against, we've got no chance of trying to protect ourselves. We're throwing solutions in for solution's sake. So I totally agree. I love the patching piece. Patching is often key. Pete, anything from you?
Yeah, I think piggybacking on what Bill said on the cyber awareness training. Yesterday, I met with the senior VP of HR at a biofarm that's been a client, and they're now making a 4-hour onboarding HR strategy that we're a part of. So there's cyber awareness, there's phishing education, there's password tips and best practices. There's how to submit a trouble ticket. There's how to be on the lookout for things. And then that becomes part of the core of every new employee onboarding. And then there's the ongoing phishing education. And then there's the ongoing, reducing the attack surface and the depth of the product. But it starts with what the poll showed right at the beginning, Ben. The number one threat to an MSP is an undereducated, overworked end user. And so 100%. We're trying to address that in cooperation with HR departments.
Yeah, totally. I mean, we all have those days. You had a bit of a heavy night the night before, or you didn't sleep well.
You have a monotone that you think might not be COVID.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you don't know what's going on. Like, my issue is I have a fairly big dog, and when we got him as a puppy, I said to my wife, I was like, he's not sleeping in the bed. This is it, and we're not going any further. That is it. I woke up the next day to him in the bed, and now he sleeps there every night. So I don't sleep well. I wake up very tired in the morning because, frankly, I've been kicked out of bed 4 times. We all do silly things when we're not necessarily thinking. We're tired. We've been out too late the night before. We've got family things going on, and users at the end of the day have this day in, day out. And then when they are worn down, we do tend to see an increase in users making poor decisions. When we're not on our A game, we're not on our A game. So I think 100% what you guys, echoing what you guys are saying, we need to be looking at how we can try to better protect ourselves from our users, but also train our users as well at the same time, making sure that they have a true understanding. I think that the number one thing that I've seen over the last year from speaking with people is that we need to start moving cybersecurity away from being an MSP-led thing and from an internal IT-led thing to being a people thing. Cybersecurity at the end of the day isn't just down to the IT administrator. It frankly should be down to every single person inside of that organization to ensure that they're protecting data and protecting their machines.
Yeah, and so it depends on who the MSP's target client profile is, right? We call it a tailored client profile. Some of the peer groups people are part of, tailored business groups, one of my favorites. So a tailored client profile says that your average or your target client is this. But if you start moving up the food chain from small business to mid-sized business, there's going to be an HR department. There's going to be a chief employee officer. And she or he is an asset that is underutilized by most MSPs, because they are really the ones that can help us educate and drive down the education all the way throughout the organization, and thereby driving up the value of the MSP in the organization.
100%, totally, yeah. So, Bill, what steps do you think the end users, MSPs, should be taking to try to protect businesses from these attacks, that whether they be smishing, phishing, wishing, or all the other issues that you were talking about earlier, or zero-day vulnerabilities? We saw. I was actually having a look earlier on today. Last year, there was depending on what source you go for. There were between 20,000 and 21,000 CVEs. So common vulnerable exploits, essentially exploits inside of software. This year, we have just hit 20,000 so far. So we are overtaking it, baby. We have done it, which is normally a really great thing until we now realize what we've just done. So, what steps is it we need to take to be able to try to protect our businesses around these vulnerabilities, these smishings and the phishings and all the other issues?
Yeah, I mean, I think we go back, it seems like we're circling back to the same common denominator, right? And that's putting in a solid cybersecurity awareness training program. And that's not just for end users, that's for your IT and cybersecurity personnel as well. So they know, I mean, us in the cybersecurity world, we tend to just rock and roll through things, but then like anything, we forego the basics and the foundation. So I think cybersecurity professionals should also get involved in that, and back down to those simplicity things, those very basics, the foundation as well. But I think it's about building the culture, right? On the end user community, you have to build that positive cybersecurity culture. Just like in an organization, you want to build your brand, everybody's an ambassador of your brand, right? Everybody's a salesperson, so to speak. I think the same goes with cybersecurity, and you build that positive culture and everybody's on the lookout. It's a collective team, kumbaya kind of thing, right? Everybody's on the lookout. From the cybersecurity pro perspective, it's one of the biggest challenges, right? Because it's a zero day, you don't know it's there. So again, you go back to that combination. If you have a solid defense and depth plan that you implement, but then there's two other aspects to that businesses need to do in order to protect themselves. And one is incident response. A lot of organizations have a good defense in depth, they've got good software, good hardware, but they lack in when something happens. Because of the mentality, it's never going to happen to me, I'm prepared. So when something happens, they have no clue how to respond. And that time from incident to disaster could be hours, days, a week. So having a good, strong incident response plan or strategy and plan, and then executing that through game days or tabletop exercises, things like that, get that instinct going in your IT team. And then I think the last part of it is, after an incident happens, what do you do? So organizations must have a business continuity and backup disaster recovery plan as well. And in the same instance, practice that, have that game day. And for those who don't know what a game day is, it's a pre-planned, scheduled time frame, 2 hours, 4 hours, a whole day if you can do it. And you just go through exercises, you see what happens with your disaster recovery plan. You actually go through your backup procedures. You actually go through your recovery procedures. You react to some type of incident. And they call it a game day because it's like playing a game, right? You go through the motions of what would happen in this scenario. And I think if we can put those little pieces of the puzzle together, I think we're going to go a long way to protecting our organizations. But the sad part is most companies don't do 2/3 of those.
100%. I mean, education, for those who have seen any of my presentations before, heard me speak or whatever, education, as far as I'm concerned, is always key. We need to make sure we're educating users. We need to make sure that they have a true understanding. But those plans that you've mentioned are incredibly helpful. I used to work for a disaster recovery, backup disaster recovery provider, and we would constantly talk about planning. Because at the end of the day, cybersecurity is that last line of defense. We need to make sure we are planned for if something bad does happen, and realistically, always have in our mind that something bad has happened so that we know quickly and effectively how we can solve that problem. Now, I want to go ahead and throw another poll out there. So, which cyber attack are you guys most worried about? We have a few in there right now. While we do that, we've got a couple of questions that we can go ahead and answer. The first one was from Jerry. How does ring fencing work, and what are the main benefits of it? So essentially, ring fencing is a ThreatLocker piece of software that very simply allows you to be able to go ahead and allow specific apps to run, but limit what they can do. So for example, PowerShell is often weaponized. Now, you want to still allow users to use it, or your IT admins to be able to use it, because obviously they're going to use that every day to be able to manage, maintain, deploy new software, etc. So if you block it, it causes a headache for them. But also threat actors like to use it during an attack. So how can I still allow PowerShell to run, but stop it from being able to be weaponized in attacks, say, being used to be able to access my files and folders? We have a very common script here that we like to run and test on people's machines. If they are at an event, do come and see us. If I'm there, I'm more than happy to test the script. It essentially uses PowerShell to take a copy of your data and upload it to some Google Blob storage. So far, I have a 100% success rate with it, so long as you're not running ThreatLocker, of course. That's always the caveat. Ring fencing is great to be able to stop those kind of attacks, because it can say app can run, but it cannot do X, Y, and Z. So it can't access the internet. It can't access your files and folders, the registry, other applications, etc. So it's a great way of minimizing how much applications can be weaponized by threat actors. Now, we have had our poll come through, and actually, not surprisingly, the number one that we have got there is ransomware. We are seeing across the MSP space, ransomware is growing more and more and more every year. I remember I started talking about this probably 7 years ago now, and it was when we go into a room and say, hey, who here's heard of ransomware? And out of 10, you'd have 2 people put their hands up. And now it's, you go in and you say, ransomware, this is what's happening. Everyone knows instantly about ransomware. We understand it. We know more about it than we've, I think, ever seen. It's constantly in the news. Second up from there, we've got phishing, and we've then got a very, very close between SQL injection and Trojan horses. So, guys, we have a lovely statistic here. 85% of organizations are more worried about ransomware attacks than ever before. Is it better to pay the ransom? And where do you view it? We're actually saying here from a legality standpoint, but I also want to add in from a morality standpoint of paying a ransom. Who wants to go first?
Yeah, I'll take that one right away. Yeah, absolutely not. Never, ever pay the ransom. If you look at a different aspect, it's like funding the terrorists. You don't ever, ever want to do that. And actually, I think in 2020, the United States passed a rule where in most cases where ransomware is paid, it's actually considered illegal. So yeah, you definitely do never, and it's a hard thing because you want your data back, but there's no guarantee that you're going to get it back, right? And I don't know the percentage of companies who have paid ransom that get their data back, but I'm sure it's a very small percentage.
So it works out that exactly, yeah, it's often you'll get some data back, but you will not get all of your data back. So 24% of businesses that actually do end up paying will not get all of their data back. And the realistic viewpoint that I have for this is, putting it bluntly, your users have probably only got a certain few files on a machine that they realistically really need. Whether it be a SQL database, an Exchange database, they've got an invoices sheet or something along those lines. It's going to be a small subset of files that they need. How can you be sure that those are the files they're going to get back if they do get hit with ransomware and they do end up paying? Pete, where do you stand on this?
If you don't have a plan, you're going to be overcome by emotion. And so, Bill, you did a great job talking about the incident response plan, and we all know we need one. How many people have one? How many people tabletop much as game day? You know, in my view, the tabletop is 15, 30 minutes. The game day is an investment of tremendous corporate resource. But if your client doesn't have an incident response plan, it means they haven't thought it through. And it's an easy thing for me to say from a distance, hey, don't pay it because we're dealing with a terrorist. It's like trying to make a parent make a decision for the entire world, but then all of a sudden it's your kid on the operating table. And you're always going to choose your kid. that's the problem if you don't have an incident response plan. Your emotion's going to overwhelm you, and you're going to make a bad decision for the rest of the, the free world. And the cyber terrorists will continue to extract their money plus a pound of flesh.
Yeah, but and the problem with it, and you're 100% right. But here's the other end of that. It's now you're creating a bigger problem, because say you pay the ransom, you get your data back. What is the triad of cybersecurity, right? Confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So how do you know that, the integrity of those files are accurate? How do you know that they're not embedded with ransomware? You could just be making the problem worse as well.
You could be, but that's a logical comment, and you're trying to overcome a business owner's emotional play on this, right? So there's logic and there's emotion, and there tends to be a dividing wall between them sometimes. So I'm in complete agreement. I've just seen clients that have felt that the emotion of trying to save themselves, they'll spend the money. And then that's where I started talking about the emotional baggage they carry, and that's the scarlet letter.
Okay, interesting. We've had a really cool question come in that I'd love to hear. You guys work with users all the time. Out in the wild, are technically skilled or technically challenged users more at risk? And I'd like to add in there is also the people who think they're technically skilled. Are they more dangerous? Who is it you guys think are more dangerous there?
I definitely think it's people who know more, or they think they know more about technology than they really do. But again, it's a balance, right? Because some people who have some exposure to IT, they're confident as well. So they're going to try stuff and they know a little bit. But then those who think they know, I think it's a balance. That's a hard one. That would be actually a fun coffee roundtable debate, actually. But I think they're both equally dangerous.
Pete, anything from you?
Yeah, I think they're both equally dangerous. I would say I would say the uneducated probably scares me more. If we can just get them slightly educated, again, working with the HR department and working on the phishing awareness, whether it's standard phishing, spear phishing, whaling, phishing, whatever the phishings were, if we can help educate them, I think we can at least take them out. And then the overeducated, if we assume that there's no malfeasance and they're decent people, I think we can harness their skills.
Okay. We've got a couple of questions here I'd love to throw out to you guys. Alec has come out and said, what are some ways to convince clients that they need additional security? They're having a hard time selling security software because it costs X amount more per endpoint than clients. They have jokes saying dentists don't want to pay more for security that they thought they already had. So, what are some ways that you guys have seen to convince clients? Pete, I know we were kind of talking about this earlier on, so I'd love to hear your thoughts there.
So which one of those questions you want me to address, Ben?
What are some ways that we can convince clients they need extra security when they already think they're protected?
Yeah, there's a lot of examples that we've used. If you bought a car in 1972, it might have had a lap belt. And if you were to go drive that car today into that dealership, you wouldn't be able to say, well, I need you to make it a 3-point or 5-point safety belt. I need airbags. I need side cushions. I need avoidance collision. And I need a backup camera, right? It's the evolution of technology. The evolution of security is the same way. The things that we're doing today are good for today based on the limits of what we can do. I bet 2 years from now and 5 years from now, there's a lot more additional things that we're going to want to put into the cocktail. Now, for me, as a business owner, I want to be able to see value. So I want my vendors to prove the value. Well, if I have intrusion detection, if I have intrusion prevention, if I have anti-spam, if I have education, now I've got this series of tools in place that are seeking to capture the criminal once they're already embedded in the enterprise. I kind of like that. So the concept of zero trust, the concept of not just a SIM, but a managed SOC. I like the idea of trying to have things that will be in place to catch a thief red-handed. And so I think where ThreatLocker is today is phenomenal. I think where ThreatLocker can be in 2 and 3 and 5 years from now is even better. And so the education with the client is part and parcel of that.
Okay, awesome. Right, over from there, guys. Again, if you have any questions, please throw them into the Q&A. More than happy.
So Bill, how do you talk to a prospect about managed security today? What's the opening conversation sound like?
Well, and I think I might be playing on words with what the question was from Alec, in the audience, but we don't ever convince. Our job is not to convince, right? We don't want to convince our clients or our prospects of anything whatsoever, because our job is to provide outcomes for our clients. It's not to sell them things, right? So it all goes back to, that common denominator again, education. We've got to educate them on why they need this or why they should have it. And I know that the question is going to come up, well, what do you do if they don't want it? Well, that's okay, right? Because unless you're only trying to sell it to them to make money, which you shouldn't be doing, right? Because that's a hard sell, and then it'll eventually go away when they want to cut costs, right?
Sure.
So if you're trying to sell a security package, then and the client doesn't want it, then you have them sign a disclaimer that says, okay, we've offered this service to you. This is what our values are. This is what we do. We have we're the experts in this area. We offer this to you. And if they decline it, that's okay. They decline it, right? Our job is to make recommendations, not to do. So you have them sign a disclaimer that says, I've declined this service. And then when an incident comes up, that opportunity will open up and say, look, you've had these incidents. You want to think about this again. But to answer your question, when it comes to a prospect, again, it's the same thing. We ask qualifying questions. Do you have a current IT provider right now? Are they a managed service provider? Do you have a business continuity plan? What do you do with as far as backups, or what do you do in the case of a disaster? Are you familiar with ransomware? Do you know anybody that's had that happen to them, or viruses? And depending on those questions, or depending on the answers to those questions, we put together a custom package for them that says, okay, look, based on the requirements that you have or that you've experienced, we think this is what you need. And 9 times out of 10, it's our standard stack of general MSP with our standard security stack. And then we offer options. Once we're in there and we onboard the client, and you get that cycle 30, 60, 90 days, then we can start talking about that first QBR, right? We start talking about, okay, here's what we've seen. Now it's time to talk about advanced cybersecurity. Is there a need for zero trust? Is there a need for penetration testing, for vulnerability assessments? Is there a need for those advanced cybersecurity services at that point in time? So that's how we approach it.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it goes back to the tailored client profile again, your TCP, who's your target client. And for us, there's really 6 common denominators, but the key is a relationship with the C-level. If we're not talking to the C-level, then we're just a vendor. We're not a partner. But the second is really important to us, and it is, do you want to or plan to use technology to move your business forward? And do you plan to use technology to get ahead of your competition? And if the answer is no, then no matter what else we say, technology is an expense, not an investment. And so it changes the mindset. They don't have a growth mindset. Where your QBR comes back, Bill, you talk about, well, we can do a vulnerability scan, we can do pen tests, we can do this, we can do that. I think that's key. But we won't accept a new client that doesn't subscribe to our enhanced security platform. We just won't do it. I have enough time, having acquired some MSPs over the time, I have enough time going back into a customer base and trying to get them to please do the things my doctor says to me. And we go through this a lot. When I see my doctor, she says, Pete, you need to get more sleep, you need to have less stress, you need to eat better, you need to work out more, and you need to drink less. And I'm not allowed to say, well, pick one, doc, I'll do that this year, and then I'll do something else next year. She tells me I got to do all 5. We tell new prospects, you got to do all 5, bro, or you can't be a client. I'm not looking to take my good assets, my best people, and waste their time if you don't think technology can move your business forward. Then we collectively at the senior level, we pick the best partners. And if we pick a partner right, someday we wind up on a webinar with Ben Jenkins talking about ThreatLocker.
And you loved every minute of it.
It's been phenomenal. Yeah.
Well, you proved the point, Pete. If we were all alike, life would be boring.
Yes.
That's right. Absolutely.
Right, guys, we are rapidly approaching the end of our time together. I'm going to ask one final question, and we'll keep it real short from either of you who wants to answer. How is it that you would go about creating an incident response plan and strategy? I guess, Bill, that's probably more of a you think. Is that something you sit down with the customer and plan out yourselves? Do you have a template that you push out? How is it you've gone about that before?
Yeah, I mean, you always start with a template. You always start with an outline, right? But then everything we do is customized. So first you establish that the customer has that need. Then you look at the requirements, and it's completely different for every different company, whether you're a small business, medium business, depending on what vertical, whether it's healthcare, government contracting, then you have to talk about compliance, right? Does compliance play a role in that? So we start with a basic outline, a basic template. We talk to the client, we go through it, we figure out, what's their RPO, RTO, run the numbers on that, and then put a plan together, discuss it with the client, and then, trim it down or add more to it, and then kind of shape it, mold it into what makes sense. And then from there, we say, okay, well, let's try this out. You don't go buy a custom suit, get it all measured, buy it, and never try the suit on, right? So you have to try the suit on to make sure it fits, make sure it needs any adjustments. That's the process that we go through.
Awesome. Nice. Right, guys, we have now hit that time. It's trivia question time. So whoever can answer, and we'll throw your answer into the chat. Okay, so it's going to be a year is the answer I'm after. Whoever can answer the question first, we will reach out to you at the end of this. I will find out whoever writes it first. We will find your name. We will reach out to you at the end of this, and you will have won yourself a ticket to Zero Trust World. Again, down in Florida in February. It's going to be lovely. It's going to be sunny. You can bring the family down, go to Disneyland. It's great. Universal, I think Busch Gardens is nearby, so you can pop on over there as well. So the question is, what year was the term Zero Trust actually coined? Again, first person to answer it in the chat is going to get the... Oh no, chat's disabled. Okay, don't answer in the chat. I guess throw it in the question. Right, okay, it looks like Ken Johnson is the first person. It was actually 1990. As soon as I said that, everyone's just throwing it in the Q&A anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But congratulations to Ken Johnson. You did get it. So Ken, we will go ahead and reach out to you in this. It is 1994. It was coined by a gentleman called Stephen Paul Marsh. He actually coined it during his thesis or doctorate or something along those lines. That said, it then became a lot more popular in 2008 and 2010 respectively, when a Forrester researcher analyst went ahead and actually started talking about it a lot more. But realistically, where it really has come out is 2018, which is why when you go to an event, every vendor that you see has Zero Trust written on it. Yeah, it's become a lot more popular since then to now. It's the only thing that that MSPs are able to hear anywhere. So look, guys, I just want to say thank you to everyone who has joined us for our webinar of Zero Scares with Zero Trust, how to protect against the latest threats. Realistically, I really want to go ahead and thank both Pete and Bill from taking the time out of their incredibly busy day and busy schedules to join us here today. It's been great having them on. We've had some really good conversations, I would say, there. So that's been wonderful. Thank you so very much. If you have enjoyed what you heard today, please be sure to scan a QR code to book a demo with a cyber hero. If you have any questions about ThreatLocker, please feel free to book in with cyber hero. That'll help as well. Just book a call, chat to a cyber hero. They're great. You will also, of course, receive a recording of this webinar through email, so please do stay tuned. Obviously, keep safe this holiday season as well. Feel free to add myself on LinkedIn. It's just Ben Jenkins. You'll see a lovely smiling photo of me in a blue t-shirt. I'm sure both Pete and Bill are more than happy for you to add them on LinkedIn as well. I volunteered them, so now they have to say it, because otherwise they don't look as kind and friendly. Look, guys, thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you to everyone for listening today.